All right, good morning. Welcome everybody. Can you hear me okay? All right,
Yes.
I see head nods, so that's good. I think you all know me, but I'm Kristen Craig, president of the Chamber, welcoming you to today's Advocacy Forum. These forums are something that we do once a month on a variety of subjects. During the legislative session, we are typically focused on that. However, we're taking a little break from our legislators and kind of delving into a little bit of different territory this morning. But don't worry, we'll be back with our legislators. I see Senator Ford on here. We will want to hear lots more from you as you all wrap up the session in the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested, the May Forum, you can register for that on our website. These forums are sponsored by Wabash Valley Asphalt. Wait a minute, I think I'm supposed to say something different now, aren't I? Milestone.
Officially Milestone Contractors South, but Wabash Valley still works too. We're still transitioning.
Okay, you may have to fill that in until I get that one memorized. John, thank you for helping me out. And John Collette, who is also our board chair this year, is the sponsor. So thank you all for being here. Without further ado, I know you don't want to listen to me talk. I will introduce our speaker for this morning. We're excited to have the new, we decided we can still say the word new. He's been in the role for 4 months, Executive Director of OCRA, Denny Spinner. Denny's here with us today, is going to share a PowerPoint. I think we'll have some time then for questions and answers at the end. If you have questions you'd like to submit, it's best to use the chat, but we're a pretty small group, so we might be able to just be able to answer those via video as well. I apologize, working from home, and dogs, of course, start barking. So Denny, I'll turn it over to you.
There we go. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I'm going to try to do the technology side of things now and share my screen so we can get that step going. And I hope that's working. I think hopefully everybody sees that PowerPoint presentation. Kristen, thank you very much. You said that you didn't want to, anybody didn't want to hear you talk. Well, probably they'll feel the same about me after about 5 minutes here. But it's a great honor to be here with you. I see some familiar faces on the line. Representative or Senator Ford and my friend Duke Bennett. As she said, I'm new to the job yet. I started at the director of OCRA in December, December 1. Prior to that, for 9 years, I was the mayor of Huntingburg, Indiana, and that's where I'm coming to you from today in my office in Huntingburg. But through my connection at the Accelerating Indiana Municipalities, I got to share some great time. Duke Bennett was a great leader and mentor for me as I became mayor, and we've been partners and worked well together on a lot of things over the years. So it's a great, I got some good friendships that I hope to continue in my role as director of OCRA. And I welcome the opportunity to kind of tell you a little bit about our agency and what we do, and look forward to your questions. So as I said, I was the mayor of Huntingburg for 9 years and was asked to come lead this agency by Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, and just the basics of our organization. OCRA works with state, local, municipal governments to provide resources and technical assistance to shape their vision. We're really the rural economic development arm of the state government. And that was something that my experience in Huntingburg, why I came to this job was Huntingburg was designated as a stellar community, part of the Office of Community and Rural Affairs and Lieutenant Governor's program that was designed to help communities move forward from the recessionary times of 08 and 09. It was a way to infuse money into local governments and do some large-scale thinking and large-scale projects. Huntingburg was fortunate to receive that designation in 2014, and over a 4 or 5 year process, we did some work with our team that was really transitional for our city, and working closely with OCRA and the other agencies that were part of that Stellar Communities program. So when an opening came up in this agency, the Lieutenant Governor approached me to lead the agency, and it was tough to leave a job that I loved as a mayor of Huntingburg. It's the best job I've ever had. I was mayor of my own hometown, which is a great thing. But when the Lieutenant Governor called and, can you do this? I believe greatly in what she believes in, and reaching out, making rural Indiana much stronger. And I said at an interview shortly after I accepted the position, I think on a short list of bucket list jobs that I would leave being mayor to do, other than pitching for the Cardinals, being the director of OCRA was probably on the list. And I've yet to get the call from the folks over at St. Louis, and at 64 years old and a bad left arm, I don't know if I'll ever get that call. So this was my next best offer that I could think of as something I would do other than being the mayor of Huntingburg, which was a great job for me. OCRA was created in 2005. We were part of the Department of Commerce at that time. We are one of 5 agencies who report directly to the Lieutenant Governor. The director is appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, and right now we have a staff of 18. As of today, let me see, we made a hire yesterday, so I think we're maybe at 18 right now, but there will be some expanding of our staff in the very near future. As we go forward, you'll be able to see some of the reasons why we're going to have some additional staff. So these are the agencies that, as we consider the Lieutenant Governor's family of business. So we all, these 5 agencies all report directly to the Lieutenant Governor. OCRA is the one there in the middle, but we also have the Indiana Department of Agriculture as part of the family of business, Indiana Destination Development Corporation, maybe Indiana Tourism, you might know them as that before that, IHCDA, which is Indiana Housing and Community Development, and Indiana Broadband, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. So you can see that the 5 agencies that the Lieutenant Governor oversees have a lot of deep roots in serving rural Indiana and communities across our state. So it's a great team, and I'm very proud to be part of that group. For OCRA, if you look at what OCRA is basically a very fundamental agency. Strong communities are built on strong foundations. And so when we look at our agency mission and what our core competencies are, we look at it in this structure here, and we'll go around the wheel here, starting at the top, and that's infrastructure. And without the basis of those basic necessities that communities must have to be successful, they're going to really struggle. So when you look at the programs that we do in OCRA, wastewater, drinking water, stormwater, those are things that you just got to have. Those are things that cities just have to provide. Municipalities must provide to provide a quality of life. Infrastructure, also, you notice that word broadband. I think that has moved like way up on the list. And if anything from the pandemic that we learned was how critical that broadband infrastructure is. Going around the wheel, quality of place. Again, everybody talks about that. Again, post-pandemic, I think this is more important than maybe ever before, because we did a year and a half ago, we talked about, we could work from anywhere. Guess what? We can work from anywhere. We've learned that in the last year, so that having that quality of place where people feel the community that they want to live in, they can make that choice now. And if they have that broadband connectivity, they can choose to live anywhere. So having a great quality of place in these communities across our state is more important than ever. And things that you can look on that list are like things like blight clearance and Main Street revitalization and women legacy grants, historic preservation. Those are all things that make a rural community much stronger and a place that is a quality place to live. Economic development is part of the key as well, helping communities do things that are attractive to bringing business and industry to your community. Things like the COVID-19 response, which we'll talk about a little bit more. Site certified, Indiana Main Street. These are all programs that help with that. And then capacity building. On the capacities, we talked about stellar communities, but we have hometown business initiatives, rural opportunity zones. We're learning more and more and become a great partner with Purdue, providing training and expertise in what opportunity zones can provide. So those are the basic ideas of what we do on a daily basis at OCRA. All of our work is based around the work around that circle there. We do reach out. We've had impact in Vigo County. You can see here on this picture that in 2018, the Terre Haute Chamber of Commerce Foundation was awarded a quick impact place-based grant. everything's got an acronym, guys. There's one thing that I learned in my move from mayor to state government. I think my first meeting, I sat down with my staff and they started talking, and I don't think it was like they were speaking a foreign language. They gave me a book about this thick of acronyms for state government. So, and unfortunately, I'm starting to move into that mode. I start talking in letters rather than words sometimes. So the Quick Impact Based Grant, QUIP is what we call it, was something that happened that we worked with Terre Haute Chamber of Commerce on, and that was to do a bike share program and bicycle. I think there were racks involved. You can see the bicycle rack there that was involved, and that was the ribbon cutting on there. And right in front of the tree is Mary Shaw from our staff, who was part of that work. So that was something that an impact that you could see there in your community. Other projects in Vigo County in 2020, a historic renovation grant for 511 Wabash Avenue was done. That was done through OCRA. And the town of Sealyville got a $60,000 grant for water infrastructure in 2021. That's through our CDBG program. There's one of those acronyms again, the Community Development Block Grant Program. So you can see that there's impact like this across our state. So I think that there's not a county that OCRA has not had something happen in. So this is an example of the type of work that we do and can impact communities at a very basic level. Our connection to our constituents is through our network of what we call community liaisons. You look at the map here, and our area, our state is divided into six districts, where each district has a liaison who their main job is to connect with city and municipal leaders, county leaders, business leaders, to understand. They're my boots on the ground. They're the people out in the field that are my eyes and ears that bring these ideas back to our office, help work through issues with local government on the issues that they need to have to help us become better and stronger. And Dee Dee Leonard is the community liaison for West Central Indiana. And she's been very, very active. That's one of the things in my role, is getting to know these folks very, very well. And I talked about a hire. We just hired a new community liaison. Monday was her first day for Northeast Indiana, and Allie Cressy is her name. But this group of individuals do an outstanding job of taking our message out to the local communities, but also being our eyes and ears on the ground to help us understand what your needs are and what you want to do. So if you got that contact information there for Dee Dee, if you need something from her, get some impact, she would love to talk to you and be an asset and a resource for you in connecting with us as state government. Where our budget comes from, a lot of it comes from the general fund. Some comes from the Rural Economic Development Fund. But our major source of funding is that CDBG money that I told you about, the Community Development Block Grant Program. This is money that comes from the Housing and Urban Development Program. So every state gets an allocation of money from HUD to use for the types of things, the initiatives, the goals that HUD has in reaching citizens across our state. So back when this money used to go to the Department of Commerce, but the Governor Daniels recognized that there would need to be a focus on this, and that's part of why OCRA was really established, to help distribute these funds. Now, there are what we call entitlement and non-entitlement communities. Terre Haute is an entitlement community. Mayor Bennett works directly with HUD sometimes to get funding through this program. Well, towns like Sealyville, the smaller towns, may not have the staff and the capacity to do that type of work. And OCRA is the agency that helps those communities kind of make that connection and help them do projects that are outside, that maybe they couldn't do on their own. So that's kind of a lot of our work is coming from CDBG money. And the last one there is the CARES Act funding, the COVID-19 response. OCRA has been the agency that has been working very hard to get that response out. I'm not taking any credit for this because I wasn't there when it started. It started, about a year ago. but very proud of our staff and our team. OCRA was, and then this is not my words, this was coming from the Lieutenant Governor as well. OCRA was the first state agency to really pivot, respond, and get money out to the communities that need it during this CARES response program. Very proud of our staff on that. And I think that's something that shows our flexibility and our ability to adapt to what the needs of communities are as the landscape changes. And boy, it's changing every day. It's a very, there's more things happening now than ever before on how these funds are coming through our state and how we need to respond to this. Indiana Main Street is a great program. We've done a lot of work in reforming that. We got a couple of very great leaders in that as well. So we have 111 different Main Street organizations in 3 different levels across our state. Discover Terre Haute received a Taking Care of Main Street grant, was part of our work that we did, where we're doing things to take money out into the communities and do impactful things in that heart of what every town is, and that's your Main Street. Your downtown is what is vital for everyone. So you can see that there was work that we've done. Again, nearly every county we've done some kind of work in Main Street, and that's something that I think that we're going to see even become more vital as we've done some surveys with some of our leaders. Is having a vital downtown is something that is absolutely critical in the recovery from the COVID pandemic. The next level connection. This is very broad. Again, next level connections is the way that Indiana took some money and went to try to approach and direct the broadband issue. So we've done 2 levels of next level connection grants at this point. The maximum amount of grant was $5 million. Priority was given to projects that leveraged amounts with private sources. So if you had a partner come to it, you could help with money. And collaboration between the community was highly encouraged. And the grants would be completed within 24 months of the grant award. Now, in the first 2 rounds, we've done adjustment throughout those rounds. But this will give you an idea of where this has happened. In round 2, which was in September of 2020, we had about $50 million for 49 projects. Broadband was expanded to over 10,000 homes in 32 counties. 16 different providers were part of this grant. They provided $52 million in local funds, which resulted in over $103 million of total investment in broadband. And you can see the dots there where all that money went to start hitting those underserved and unserved areas in Indiana when it came to broadband. So that project, that was through round 1 and round 2, and we're preparing for round 3. And again, as I said, the landscape is changing as we speak. Our legislative representative knows that this discussion is probably one of the hottest topics that is going on in our legislature right now. And where we are in our current legislation, this will be a priority bill coming out of the session this year. But what we do know that's in the bill, there's still a lot of detail and a lot of specifics to be worked out. But some of the top priority items that we're seeing, the state is stepping up big here. We've got $250 million in the biennial budget dedicated to the expansion of broadband services in our state, which will be administered by our office. So when we talked about that staffing of 18, part of that bill is to give us the manpower to make sure that we serve Hoosiers as best we can. So there will be some expansion of staff to help us with this effort, because the worst thing we could do is offer a program and then not offer a way for us to support that in the right way. So thanks to the legislators and the leadership in our state, they're recognizing as we roll this out that there's going to be a need for us to provide more manpower to provide these services. Priorities will be given on connecting schools, students, and health facilities. And if you think about if we can reach those constituents in our first wave of funding, that affects a lot of people. That hits a lot of people when you talk about schools, students, and health facilities, because, and rightly so, the priorities are looking there because e-learning is happening everywhere and e-medicine is happening everywhere. So if we put a priority on connecting those and how we're going to do that, one of the ways the legislature is doing that is a subsidy for schools, families, and clinics. And there's a process that we'll go through that will identify what level of connectivity each of these entities have and provide a way for us to reach out to providers to help subsidize this. If a school, for example, one of the goals is to have all schools connected at 1 gig. So we're finding out, working with DOE, on what schools aren't at that level and why. If it's a matter of they have the technical capability but not the budget to do it, we can help subsidize the budget to get that funding, get that up to where they have that 1 gig. It could be they just don't have the service. So how do we use our funds to direct it, to get the service to those schools? Same thing with the clinics. How do we get them to that level? And with the students, with the families, it's going to be also a subsidy that will help them if the wire is outside their home. Many areas, and even our most urban areas, have a broadband service available to them, but there could be things that the family just cannot afford to make that connectivity. And so there will be ways for families to use subsidies to help them make that connectivity once the wire or once the broadband is available there. It expands upon the grant program to allow for line extension to the areas that are most difficult to serve. And one of the ways that we're going to approach that is an online portal that will be available for those who are not being served to provide OCRA information and then connect them to providers. The timeline on all this, first of all, the timeline is we got to wait till the final measure of the bill comes out so we can really know what the rules are and to establish a program that is very, very responsive. We're hopeful to have, we have a target date of by August 1 to have the portal available to students so that we can start identifying what students need that connectivity right away. Cross our fingers we can move a little bit quicker, but there's a lot of things that we want to do to make sure it's working right. But this online portal would be available, by the end of the summer for students who are not connected to start logging in and giving us information that we can connect them with providers that could possibly serve them in that area. But there's a lot of work to do to get to that. And again, our legislators are working hard to hammer out the details on that. It's that time of year in the legislature where all those things happen. We've had tremendous connection and community connections with the representatives. We've had lots of great questions. Our senators and our representatives are deeply engaged in this, and we're working well with the leadership to come up with a package that we think will serve Hoosiers in an effective way. I could talk more and more about this agency as I really believe that in the transition that I made to come to this office, I wouldn't have done this without a belief that this is a time more than any that there is a need for focus on getting work to our rural communities across the state, because again, coming out of COVID-19, quality of place, connectivity are issues that every community is facing. I really believe we have tremendous network of leaders through my work at AIM and with other mayors. I know the quality of leadership that we have out here in our state in at the local level. And I really have a lot of heart for the mayors across our state that were elected in 2019, came into office, and 2 months later, their world changed. And all of a sudden, all they're doing is putting out fires, so to speak. They've been working hard to do the things, the basic services, the health of their community was their focus. And now as we start to see a transition out of this, we want to put our agency in a position to help those civic leaders across our state come up with ways to help them truly recover. And I haven't even mentioned the American Relief Program yet, because we don't know. We know that's going to change the game. How, we don't know, but we internally are working with great leadership from our Lieutenant Governor. We had a very strong heart-to-heart meeting last week about what direction our agency should take. I mentioned the Stellar program. Part of what we were going to do prior to all this changes was to relaunch a Stellar program. But I would say that probably right now is not the time for Stellar. It's the time for response to help communities in their use and application of the dollars that are coming from the federal government, because it's historic dollars. I haven't spoken to a leader yet that isn't concerned about not just spending it on things, but spending it on ways to help communities establish a long-term legacy, that we address not only the short-term problems, but the unique opportunity to address long-term problems and issues in our community, to plan for better development in our communities. And I haven't had an original thought in about 8 or 9 years, but I read a lot and I know what good thoughts are. And I read where we are right now. The only time in history that we can really kind of equate maybe some of this to was, you think about in the 40s when the New Deal came out, and all the money that came to communities to do projects, and all of us who are old enough to walk around our communities now and look at how many buildings and structures and things are still in your community that were part of that program in the 1940s. And I think we as leaders in our communities are sitting on that same opportunity, that we can use the money in great ways, or we can really think about ways to build legacies for the future, that history is going to look back on us at this time and go, what did they do? And now's the time. It's a challenge for all of us as leaders in our community to have that discussion. And I really hope that OCRA, we've been in a position to work with communities across our state historically, and I believe we're in a position to help our leadership and our state in this recovery effort. So with all that, I'll stop and hopefully be able to answer some questions for you.
Thank you. Great information. With that, you kind of gave me a good segue. I think I'll turn it over to Mayor Bennett if he would like to answer. Sorry, I should have given you a heads up. I was going to call on you, but I figured you might have a couple of questions or just comments.
Well, just a quick comment, Denny. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Duke.
As you mentioned earlier, since we're an entitlement community, we don't get to take advantage of a lot of these programs that provided through OCRA, but we have had some successes and we'll continue to look for those. I wonder as we move forward, whether these designations are going to change on populations and all that. So that's something that I'm keeping a close watch on. I'd rather stay the way we are, but we'll see how this plays out. But just appreciate you taking that step up to leave that position down in Huntingburg and serve the lieutenant governor and the state government in the way you have. And just, it's good to have an ally and a friend over there. And just, we're doing good things in Terre Haute. We're excited about this, and we'll see what we can do to continue to work with OCRA and bring more, dollars and do those improvements and quality of life things that you mentioned too, that's so important. And so we appreciate what you're doing every day out there.
And I appreciate having, the calls that I get from my former mayor colleagues are interesting calls. Now I've got a little bit different position than I had before. I told my pals the name of my agency is OCRA and not Oprah. I just can't keep handing out checks, but I'll try to help in any way. And Mayor Bennett, I can tell you that one of the things this is where we need to talk at some time. With all this, the programs coming from the federal government, I think they're being designed on CDBG guidelines, but I don't think the restrictions there for entitlement or non-entitlement are quite as, I haven't seen as much as about that as that there may not be as many ties to that. And as we start rolling that money out, we've got to really explore what opportunities, how we can connect and take advantage of that.
Yeah, very good.
I'd open it up for questions. I don't see any in the chat, but like I said, we're a relatively small group this morning. So if anybody has any questions or comments they'd like to chime in with, feel free. Well, we kind of wait here a second. Denny, I did want to make sure that you're aware of a couple of things. You mentioned downtown Terre Haute a couple of times. Thank you very much. And just so you're aware, that is under the Chamber's umbrella. So we are
Right.
the administrator for that organization. And then also I wanted to mention that we have been operating in a much more regional way than we have in the past through a group called West Central 2025. That's something that we are in the beginning stages of standing up. And it's really focused on quality of life throughout our 6-county region, and really excited to see the momentum and progress happening there. And again, just our community starting to come together in ways that they haven't before. You know, you talked a lot about those CDBG funds, and we all know Terre Haute's not eligible, but what we've really been able to do is cross across those county lines and be able to work with some of our outlying communities who are eligible and make sure that they're taking full advantage of that. So just wanted to mention that as well.
And that is one of the directives from the Lieutenant Governor. She's very much wanting to think in a regional way. And I think as we start looking at ways to run those, again, the funds that are here, how can we think in a more regional way? And I applaud the efforts that are going on. I'm looking forward to, I think there's been a couple of times we thought about meeting with some of the group, but with travel restrictions and whatever, we're waiting for that to happen. And hopefully, you know, I got my second shot, so I'm about ready to start getting out on the road a little bit more and making sort of more face-to-face contact. So I appreciate, I'll look forward to that opportunity to speak more in depth with your group about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll also be an opportunity. I know we've got Ryan Keller from Thrive on here as well, and then the efforts of our local RDA as well. So we'll be able to give you a very full comprehensive update sometime in the near future. Any questions, comments?
I have one, Kristen, if you don't mind. Good morning, Denny. Hope you're doing well. I had a quick question in regards to the broadband grants specifically, and it's not really a question, maybe I'm more advocating, but in the past, those grants have been so strict from a rural standpoint that sometimes 2 or 3 houses outside of that circle of availability get left out. And I apologize because I'm sure you've heard this many a time, but I just wanted to, in the most polite way on this Friday morning, advocate to try to loosen those restrictions a little bit, because I think there are times when going one road over to the right or left could actually include many homes within a particular area or zone. And I think that our goal obviously is to get as many homes on that broadband strand as we possibly can. So just nicely advocating on this Friday morning.
Well, I think I know the legislature has heard that many times, and that's a reality that we're all trying to deal with. And part of the idea about the portal that I discussed, the first effort will be on focusing on students, which I think is a great way to focus. But the portal will also be used after that for individuals like this who may be in a pocket where they can get service, for them to log in, for us to be able to identify who they are, do a little research on our end and say, well, if this person in West Terre Haute doesn't have it, are there 4 or 5 others around that? Do a little research on the mapping that we have available to us to identify, is there a cluster there? And then work with the providers to say, hey, look, there are 8, 10 extensions here, a line extension program, that what makes it the financially feasible for them to do that. We want to spend every dollar that we're getting from the federal government, and there's more federal money coming from that. So we're kind of watching that very closely. And it's been very strong directive from our state leadership is that Indiana's dollars will be the last dollar to close that gap. So that's why we're trying to position ourselves for that there is a plan for that. The one thing that we really have to do, and I'll be very honest with you, is manage the expectations, because you think about everyone who's has the demand for that, the industry itself is scaling up for that major expansion. I mean, I think you've seen a lot of the major providers already announce that they're looking for employees, they're looking for people that, demand is going to be there. If the funds are there to do it, the next struggle, the next issue will be just having physically the manpower and the capability to get out and get those services out to where they need to go. So there's a lot of things to be worked out. We want to do it as quickly as we possibly can, but we also want to do it responsibly and well and where it makes sense. So So I really applaud the legislative groups that have worked on this, have thought about that exact problem, and how can we better identify where those needs are, because, and this is where people like Mayor Bennett and your local leaders across Vigo County, nobody knows who doesn't have service better than the guys that sit, ladies and women that sit in this office, because they get the calls. And we want to make those connections too, that they know who's not getting the service, because they get the calls too. So how do I get broadband? So we want to really network with our local government leaders to make sure that we're aware of that as well.
Thank you, Denny. I appreciate that.
Any other questions, comments for Director Spinner? All right. Well, thank you for your time this morning. Again, we appreciate it. It was great. Sort of, I guess we'll call this getting to know you. I look forward to whenever we can actually meet in person and really get to know you.
I love that opportunity. Always like going to, you know, people's, this is a story. I mean, I got a personal story to tell. My wife and I, our anniversary is in July, and we love wineries and going to short trips like that. So, you know, when I was planning a trip for us over our anniversary last year, it was very difficult to try to navigate that during the middle of the COVID stuff. But we spent the weekend in Terre Haute, which, where else would you go on your weekend? You know, your anniversary weekend was, we hit the wineries all around the Terre Haute area and had a great dinner in downtown Terre Haute. So, you know, so yeah, I'm looking forward to the next visit when everything is open a little bit more, and an opportunity to see what really great things are happening in your community.
Well, we will take the opportunity to have you whenever you would
All
like.
right.
Let us know.
All
right. Well, thank you all very much. And just a reminder, we did record today's session and we'll be posting on the Chamber's YouTube channel, so you can view it there and feel free to share with others. Everybody, go out and enjoy this beautiful Friday.